everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the intergenic interactions, that is, the interactions among the genes. Particularly, here we'll concentrate about the interactions between two different genes, that is, two allelic pairs. So before going into the details of it, once again, when you just look into the dihybrid cross ratio, so here the phenotypic and genotypic ratios are 9:3:3:1, 3:1, and the 1:2:1:2:4:2 4:2:1:2:1. This is what we have seen in the dihybrid cross. The first 9 phenotypes will belong to 4 different genotypes. The same way, these 3 belong to 2 different categories, and this particular phenotype, that is, these 3 will belong to 2 different genotypes, and the last one will belong to only one particular genotype. So the 9:3:3:1, that is, the phenotypes mentioned in this phenotypic ratio will have different types of genotypes again. This is what we understood from the dihybrid cross. So two things we understood from this. One is, while studying the dihybrid cross, we understood that there is independent assortment. That is, the segregation of one allelic pair is independent of the other allelic pair. That's what independent assortment means. That is the reason why we have got 9:3:3:1 in the phenotypic ratio. The same way, in the genotypic ratio, this particular ratio is possible because of independent assortment. If there is no independent assortment, this genotypic ratio cannot be possible. Now coming to the independent phenotypic expression, here the first allelic pair is able to generate one kind of phenotype, and the second allelic pair is able to generate another kind of phenotype, which means here you can see phenotypic, that is, independence in the phenotypic expression also. So there is independence with respect to the assortment and independence with respect to phenotypic expression. This is what we can understand from this particular dihybrid phenotypic and genotypic ratios. So here in this gene interactions, what we are going to study is, whatever the gene interactions that we are going to study, in all those cases there will be independent assortment, which means this particular genotypic ratio will be obtained, and this thing also can be seen. But as there is interaction among these genes, this phenotypic ratio will change. So how this phenotypic ratio is going to be affected because of this independent phenotypic expression is what we are going to discuss in detail in this lecture. Now here, the gene interactions we have classified into 2 different categories. One is intragenic gene interactions, the other one is intergenic gene interactions. So in the case of intragenic gene interactions, each gene is responsible for a different phenotype. But in this case, that is in the intergenic interactions, gene interactions, 2 different genes, that is 2 different allelic pairs, are responsible for the same phenotype. This is what we are going to discuss now. These interactions can be epistatic or non-epistatic type, or additive or polygenic interactions. And under intragenic interactions, we'll see what these lethal genes will be. So before going into the details of intergenic gene interactions, we'll see what are these lethal genes are. So while discussing all this, one thing we have to keep in mind, that is, in all these interactions that are shown here, there is independent assortment. That is, there is assortment of allelic pair independent of the other allelic pairs. So there is no effect on the segregation of the allelic pairs. What is going to be affected with this gene interaction is only the phenotype. So how we'll see now. So first thing is, coming to the lethal genes. Lethal is the one that actually kills the organism. So here, lethal alleles or lethal genes will cause the death of the organism prematurely. This is what the lethal gene means. These lethal genes were first reported by Lucien Cugnot in 1905 in mice. When he was performing an experiment like the monohybrid cross which was performed in Garden P by Mendel, one important observation that he made was when he has taken heterozygous yellow mice. So AAY are actually yellow mice, whereas A are agouti. This is wild type, whereas AY are actually the homozygous conditions for the lethal alleles. So when he was performing this particular cross, that is when he has taken heterozygous yellow coated mice, when he crossed those two, always he was getting 1:2 ratio only. That is 1 agouti and 2 yellow coated mice. So what he has concluded from this is the phenotypic ratio, instead of 3:1 as in the case of dominance, or maybe 1:2:1 as in the case of incomplete dominance or codominance, this phenotypic ratio was always 1:2 only. Later studies have shown that in this homozygous recessive in this case is actually missing. That is, in the embryonic stage itself, this AY mice is being killed. So AY is actually lethal allele here. In the homozygous condition only it is able to express, which means AY is actually recessive with respect to lethality. That is why it is not able to express in the heterozygous condition. But you can see AY is responsible for the yellow coat, which means AY is actually dominant with respect to the color. So the same allele responsible for lethality and responsible for color also, but with respect to one phenotype it is recessive, that is with respect to lethality it is recessive, but with respect to color it is actually dominant one. So the phenotypic ratio for the recessive lethal allele will be 1:2. The similar kind of experiments are performed in Andirhinum or Snapdragon by E. Barr in 1907. So what he observed was the same thing. When he has crossed F1 heterozygous plants, he obtained 1:2. Here capital C is responsible for the chlorophyll formation, whereas small c is without chlorophyll formation, and capital C is actually aria or one kind of golden yellow kind of leaves. So his observation was when heterozygous plant, that is heterozygous aria plants were crossed, the phenotypic ratio was 1:2. That is 1 with the chlorophyll, 2 will be with aria color. That is green and aria colored plants were produced in 1:2 ratio. Again, in the detailed studies, it was found that the small c which is actually should be without chlorophyll is actually missing. That's why it is not produced, but because it is actually killed prematurely. So when the lethal allele is recessive, the F2 phenotypic ratio will be 1:2. That is 1 will be homozygous dominant and 2 will be heterozygous. So homozygous recessive condition is actually missing here because it is lethal allele. If it is the fully dominant allele which is responsible for this lethality, only the fully dominant one, not the heterozygous one, then the phenotypic ratio will change to 2:1. Another interaction where you can find the intergenic gene interactions, where two different genes are responsible for only one particular phenotype. This is what the intergenic interaction is. So genes at different loci contribute to the determination of a single phenotype. This is what the interaction is. But in the case of the other independent expression, we have seen one allelic pair is responsible for one phenotype and another allelic pair is responsible for another phenotype. So these are of two different types. So the first intergenic interactions that we are going to see here is the gene interaction producing a novel phenotype. So here you can see capital B is responsible for brown and capital Y is responsible for yellow fruit, where in the case of capsicum annum. So here you can just see this, capital B dash capital Y dash will be 9. That's what we have seen from the regular dihybrid cross. Capital B dash small y will be 3. Small b capital Y dash will be 3. Small b small y will be 1. Now capital B is responsible for a brown color and capital Y is responsible for the yellow color. You can see this one will be brown and this one will be yellow. But now you can see gene interactions producing a novel phenotype. That is, these two genes, capital B and capital Y, are interacting and producing a novel phenotype here. Therefore, it is red color that is produced. When these two are not present, that is capital B and capital Y are not present, or when they are present in the recessive condition, then the color of the fruit will be green. So here, the gene interactions, when they are leading to the novel phenotype, the phenotypic ratio will be 9:3:3:1. You can find one important thing here, that is this phenotypic ratio is similar to the dihybrid phenotypic ratio. So why it is similar to the dihybrid phenotypic ratio means, we can see this one, when they are having independent expression, capital B dash capital Y dash should produce one combination of characters, that is as in the case of round yellow. So round yellow is actually one combination, but here it is not the combination. Together they are responsible for the same color. So therefore overall the ratio will remain same, that is 9:3:3:1. Coming to another example for the same interactions. In the case of chickens, there are different types of combs. So comb is this. You can find 4 different types of combs here. The first thing is capital R is responsible for rose comb. This is the rose comb base. And capital P is responsible for pea comb. Now, when they are present together, they are responsible for the walnut comb. So, gene interaction is leading to the formation of a novel phenotype which is not present in these two. Now, when they are present in the recessive condition, then that particular comb will be single. So, again the phenotypic ratio will be 9:3:3:1 only. Epistasis is another intergenic interaction where one gene present at one particular locus will affect the expression of another gene at a different locus. So basically there will be inhibition of one gene, or one gene will mask the effect of other gene present at the other locus. This is what the epistasis is. Now the gene which actually masks is called epistatic gene, and the one which is being masked is called hypostatic gene, which means epistatic gene is actually masking the hypostatic gene expression. It can be of dominant epistasis or recessive epistasis. So first we'll try to understand these two terms. So here epistasis is common in both the cases, that is the masking is there in both the cases, but it is dominant epistasis because the dominant allele is responsible for epistasis. So capital A, small a, when you just look into this, so capital A, small a, capital A, capital A, small a, small a. So in the first case, that in the dominant epistasis, capital A is responsible for the masking of B or small b, whichever it is. So it is masking the expression of this. So why it is dominant epistasis? Because with respect to its particular allelic pair, that is capital A, small a, this is dominant. This is responsible for the epistasis. But in the case of recessive epistasis, the recessive allele at this particular locus is responsible for the masking of capital B or small b. That is what recessive epistasis means. So we'll see the examples for both dominant epistasis and the recessive epistasis here. First, coming to the recessive epistasis, Labrador retrievers are the best examples for this, where the color of the skin, that is the hair color particularly, will be different because of two different genes. One is this particular one and this one is another one is this. So here let us take the first one is capital B, which is responsible for the black color, whereas small b is responsible for brown color. Capital E allow the pigmentation and the small e do not allow the pigmentation, which means when this particular allele is present in the homozygous condition, that is small e, it will not allow the pigmentation. That's why it is recessive one. So you can see here again the four different types of means total genotypes we have classified into the same four categories only, where you can see the last two will be small e, that is homozygous recessive. These two will not allow the pigmentation, therefore the dark color will be yellow. But when capital E is present, capital E dash, in both these cases, as capital E is dominant over the small e, capital E will allow the pigmentation. Which pigmentation depends on this particular gene. Now if the gene is capital B, that is the allele at this particular position is capital B, then it will be black in color. But when small b is present, which is actually responsible for the brown color, then capital E will allow the brown color. So the first 9 will be black color, 3 will be brown color, and this 3 plus 1, totally 4 will be yellow in color. Therefore the phenotypic ratio will be 9:3:3:4. So 9:3:3:1 is changed to 9:3:4. In the case of dominant epistasis, dominant allele is responsible for the epistasis. So exactly it is opposite to the one that we have seen in the earlier example. Here capital W will not allow the color, that's why it is white color, whereas small w will allow the color. And which colors depends on this particular gene, that is capital G is responsible for yellow color, small g is responsible for green color. Now again we have classified this F2 genotypes into 4 categories, where the first one will be 9:3:3:1, like this the genotypes will be. So now wherever the capital W is present, it will not allow the yellow or green color to be produced. Therefore all these will be of white color only, irrespective of the other particular gene. But here you can see small w is present in the homozygous recessive condition, therefore the color will be allowed to produce. And which color, it actually depends on this. So it will be yellow color and this one will be green in color. Therefore the phenotypic ratio will change into 12, that is 9 plus 3, 12 plus 3, 1, that is 12:3:1. Sometimes you can find a relationship called complementary genes or duplicate recessive epistasis. So why they are named as these particular things, we'll just see in detail. But when you just look into the Lathyrus odoratus, sweet pea, where the flower color, here capital A, capital B, when they are present together, they are producing color. That is capital A and capital B, both are required for the color to be produced. If any one of this is missing or both of these are missing, then it will be colorless. So this is how it will be in F2. Again capital A dash, capital B dash. So as we have seen, it will be color. The color is purple here. Now in this second type of genotype, you can see capital B is missing. Therefore, this will be white in color. And the third type of genotype, capital A is missing. Therefore, again it will be white in color. And here it will be also white in color. So, all this will be white in color, whereas this one will be purple in color. How this can be understood in a better way, we'll see. Here, S1, let us take one substrate which is colorless. S2 is also colorless. S1 is converted to S2 in the presence of an enzyme E1. S2 is converted to P. P is actually the colored product in the presence of E2. So, colorless precursor S1 converted to one colorless precursor S2 in the presence of E1, which in turn converted into colorful products. So, these two enzymes are required for the color to be produced. This enzyme is due to this particular gene and this enzyme is due to this particular gene. So, capital A will produce E1, capital B will produce E2. So, when small a is present, enzyme is not produced. When small b is present, enzyme is not produced. So, when both genes are present, both enzymes will be produced, therefore, the color will be produced. This is what the complementary genes means. That is, the function of one gene is complemented by another gene. Therefore, the color is produced. So, the phenotypic ratio here will be 9:7. And it is called duplicate recessive epistasis because you can see recessive condition, that is homozygous recessive condition with respect to any allelic pair is responsible for the same phenotype. So, it's like this: small a, small b are actually duplicates because they will produce the same phenotype only. Therefore, it is called duplicate recessive epistasis. Another example for the duplicate recessive epistasis, or it is also called complementary genes, is Physa heterostroha or freshwater snail, where the pigmentation is the example here. So, relationship is same here. Capital A and capital B both are required for the pigmentation, and the other genotypes will produce albino. So, 9 will be pigmented, all these will be albinos only. The explanation is same. Colorless substrate 1 converted to colorless substrate 2 in the presence of E1 and E2 respectively, and the colored product is produced. So, both genes in the dominant condition are required for enzymes to be produced and the color to be generated. So, again the phenotypic ratio will be 9:7. In the case of duplicate dominant epistasis, in the earlier case we have seen duplicate recessive epistasis, which means small a, small b, will produce only the same phenotype. Here, capital A dash, capital B dash, both will produce the same phenotype. That's what you can see here. So, capital A dash, capital B dash, capital A dash, small b, and small a, capital B dash. So, all these will produce the same phenotype only. But the recessive alleles, that is homozygous recessive condition, will produce a different phenotype. So, here in the case of Capsula bursa pastoris or shepherd purse, the seed shape is of two different types, triangular and ovoid seeds. When any one of these dominant allele is present between these two allelic pairs, the seed shape will be triangular. When both dominant alleles are missing in both the allelic pairs, then it will be ovoid. Therefore, the phenotypic ratio will be 9 plus 3 plus 3, 15:1. Coming to the supplementary genes, here one allele is able to produce a particular phenotype. So, you can see capital R is responsible for red color in the case of green color in the maize. But when another dominant allele is present along with this, it is producing a different phenotype. When capital R is absent, then it will produce only white color, which means one gene is sufficient to produce a phenotypic expression. That is, capital R is sufficient to produce phenotypic expression, that is red color here. But addition of another gene, that is capital P, causes the change in expression. So capital R will produce red color when this capital P is absent. When in the presence of it, it will produce a purple color. When small r are present, that is capital R is absent, then it will be white in color. This is what supplementary genes means. That is, capital P is actually supplementing the capital R to change its phenotype. So you can see this one will be of one phenotype 9, this will be of one phenotype 3, and these two together will be of one phenotype, that is 4. Therefore, the phenotypic ratio will be 9:3:4 in this case. Coming to the inhibitory genes, dominant allele present at one particular location, that is locus, is inhibitory to another dominant allele present on the other locus. So inhibitory dominant gene at one locus prevents the expression of another dominant gene at the other locus. This can be written simply as like this. So simply like this. Capital A dash. So irrespective of this, capital A is dominant over capital B. So in the case of rice, the leaf color is one example for this, where you can see I inhibits P. Actually, P is responsible for the purple color, that is capital P is responsible for purple color. So in the absence of capital I, it is able to produce purple color. That's the reason why capital I dash capital P dash will produce only green color, because purple will not be expressed in the presence of capital I. The same thing here also. So anyhow here small p is present, therefore whether it is capital I or small I, the color will be green only. But in this case it will be purple. I've just changed the order here, 9:3:1:3. So 3 I have kept here, so that all these same phenotypes come together. Therefore the phenotypic ratio will be 13. 9 plus 3 plus 1 is to 3. This will be the phenotypic ratio in the case of inhibitory genes. Sometimes there may be duplicate genes with the cumulative effect. The example for which is summer squash. The fruit shape here is the example for this. So in this, capital A, which is spherical, is dominant over small a. Small a is responsible for long shape. Capital B is also responsible for the same phenotype, that is spherical shape only, and it is dominant over the small b, which means capital A, capital B, small a, small b. You can see the same phenotypic expression. So they are duplicate genes, but they are showing cumulative effect, which means when these two are present together, then they are responsible for a different kind of phenotype. So capital A dash small b is responsible for spear, small a, capital B dash is responsible for again spear. But when these two are present together, they are responsible for disc shaped fruit. When both are absent, then the fruit shape will be long. Therefore, the phenotypic ratio will be 9:6:1. So thank you. In the next lecture, we'll discuss about the polygenic inheritance and pleiotropy.